Like to call the Township Committee meeting to order. Riley, would you please lead us in a flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice that this has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Public Meetings Act, by posting a notice on the bulletin board and emailing a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the press at 9:30 stating the reorganization meeting will take place at 6 p.m. on Monday, January the 5th, 2015, in the municipal building with the regular business meeting following immediately thereafter.
Next item on the agenda is the administration of oaths of office to John Kurtz as Township Committee member for a 3-year term effective January 1, 2015 through December the 31st, 2017. The oath will be administered by Freeholder Willie Pauls. John?
I think John's going to be on this side. John should be on Willie's left, right?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we didn't know we'd be here tonight, huh? If I can give you any advice,
There, it's fine.
remember that when the Christmas lights go out across the street, call an electrician. I, John Kurtz, do solemnly swear
I, John Kurtz, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
and in the governments established in the United States and this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and
and
justly
perform the duties of the office of Township Committee member
perform the duties of Township Committee member
of the Township of Hamilton
of the Township of Hamilton
for the terms January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2017.
for the term of January 1st, 2015 till December 31st, 2017,
According to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Wow, what a great year.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to make this quick. We have a big agenda tonight, but I wanted to thank everyone in the audience, all my friends, family, supporters, and of course the voters who made it possible for me to be here tonight. It's been a long journey, and be honest with you, on November 30th, when I had the accident, I wasn't sure that I would be able to do this, and I'm so fortunate and thankful that I'm able to be here and do this, and thanks again to all my family, friends, and voters for making this possible. Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, John?
I'm good, Brian.
Good.
Ms. Seattle,
Good to see you.
Just call them roll.
Here.
Mr. Bouchard,
Present.
Mr. Wood,
Here.
Mrs. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here. Take a moment of silence for private reflection. Mrs. Anderson.
This time we'll take nominations
I'd like to make a motion for Roger Silva.
I'll second that.
Move to close nominations.
So moved.
Yes.
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn,
Yes.
Yes. And thank you, everyone. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, I'll call for selection of permanent deputy chairperson, deputy mayor for the year 2015.
I'll make a motion to nominate Amy Gatto as deputy mayor.
I'll second it. I'll move to close nominations.
Second. Sure. Yes.
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and now Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the appointments of professionals for the year 2015 or until a successor is appointed. A, solicitor.
Make a motion for Robert Sandman Esquire of the firm Hankin Sandman Palladino to continue in the role.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Mr. Solicitor.
It is a true honor to represent the town that you live in. And it's an honor that we don't take lightly. So, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is engineer.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bob Smith of Remington, Vernick, and Wahlberg.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is auditor.
Make a motion for Leon Costello of the firm Ford Scott Associates.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gat,
Do we have discussion on that, or is? I feel that the auditor that we currently have, Bowman, has done an excellent job. They've been very professional in their representation at all of the meetings we've had and all the times that I've come in contact with them. I think it's a shame to let them go. So I just want to make that point known.
Good.
I think they've done an excellent job.
Rodney, I don't think anybody's criticizing the fact whether they did a good or bad job. It's a well-known fact that they're a fine auditing firm. But there's other auditing firms, and other people have choices too. But your comments are well taken, and I thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
okay. Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Next item is bond counsel.
I'll make a motion to put in Joel Fleischman of Fleischman Daniels Law Office.
Second?
A motion and a second. We have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Next item is Labor Council.
Make a motion for Russell Lichtenstein of Cooper Levinson.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next item on the agenda is Traffic Engineer.
Make a motion for Litwarnia and Associates to continue in the role.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard.
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. G is alternate conflict solicitor.
Make a motion for Randolph Lafferty of Cooper Levinson.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Alternate conflict engineer.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we deem all as qualified as we did last year and use them as we feel appropriate throughout the year.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay. Municipal Court Prosecutor.
I'll make a motion to appoint Donna Lee Vitale.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard, Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Next, Municipal Court Public Defender.
Make a motion for Frank J. Lentz, LLC.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next is a certified property appraiser.
I'll make a motion to approve Sockler Realty Associates.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard.
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next item is risk management consultant.
Make a motion for Glen Insurance.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Is it going to be Mr. Brown from?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
To continue.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Township architect.
I'll make a motion to appoint the Design Collaborative.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Good, thank you. Item 4, authorize the administrator to prepare formal, fair, and open professional services contracts for the appointees for 2015 or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the mayor and township clerk to execute the same. We'll take them all together, A through N.
So moved.
So,
Second.
second.
A motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva,
Yes.
all yes and carried.
Thank you. Appointment of the township physicians for the year 2015, or until a successor is appointed to be compensated on a services as rendered basis.
So moved.
Okay, all together on that. That's the Atlantic Care Occupational Health Service, Shore Urgent Care, and Atlantic Investigations. Mrs. Anderson.
Who seconded?
I'll second that.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva,
Yes.
all yes and carried.
Next item on the agenda is the Zoning Board of Adjustment appointments. Township Committee appoints a regular member, 4-year term.
I'd
Jan-
like to, I'd
go
like
ahead.
to make a motion for the names Bruce Stry and Amanda Zimmerman.
Who was the first?
I'll second that.
Bruce Stry.
Can I ask, were applications submitted for those? Because I don't know that I recall.
Well, they're both sitting members, so they would have had them in, they wouldn't have been listed as the new applicants. The sheet we got, Rodney, only said new applicants on that one column.
Yeah, okay.
So we had the motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, alternate 1, it's a 2-year term ending December the 31st, 2016.
Move the name of Carl Patali.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Number 7 is the Industrial Commission. Township Committee appoints. It's a member for a 5-year term.
Move to reappoint Charles Pritchard.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Planning Board appointments. Class 1, mayor or mayor's designee. It's a 1-year term, January 1, 2015 to 12/31/2015. I'm going to ask, will ask Frank Giordano to sit my seat. B, Class 2 township official, 1-year term. I'm going to ask to table that till the next meeting.
Okay.
C, Class 3 appointment, Township Committee member, 1-year term, 1/1/15 to 12/31/2015.
Make a motion that be John Kurtz.
I'll second it. Motion is second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
D, Class 4 members, the mayor appoints them. 1, the unexpired regular member term of John Kurtz ending 12/31/2016. I appoint Harry Rogers to that. And the alternate term, it's a 2-year term, 1/1/15 to 12/31/2016. Jack Percy. Next item is number 9, the Veterans Advisory Board appointments. Regular members, 3-year term each.
I nominate
Go ahead.
the,
You can name them all.
all the members named to be appointed. And that's Robert Campbell, John Keyes, and Albert Davenport, all of whom sit on the board now.
Second.
Motion is second. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Historic Preservation Commission, that's the mayor appoints that. Regular member of unexpired term of John Kurtz ending 12/31/2015. Appoint Carl Farrell to that. The alternate one, it's a 2-year term, 1/1/15 to 12/31/2016. Arlene Blosh.
I'll second that.
No, there's just mayor's appointments, but
Okay.
thank you, John. All right. Thank you, I appreciate it. Need confidence there, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your first blubber over with, John.
There you go.
It's all right. 11, Emergency Management. The coordinator appointments, the mayor confirms. A, Emergency Management Director,
Mr. Mayor, in light of Mr. Petusky's resignation, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Michael Robeson to the coordinator position.
I'll second it. Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Gishard,
I'll have to pass on that.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes. Thank
Your
you.
one.
Rodney, just so you
Yeah, I
know,
passed. It's only because I'm not familiar with the individual, but I'm sure he's a fine person.
Mike is sitting in the back of the room, and he is a detective in our police department and also the chief of the rescue squad.
All right, yes.
And he's a fine individual.
That
He's al- he's also,
intimidate
he's
you,
also pretty big.
You don't have to change your vote. It's okay. All the other positions on the emergency management are appointed by the emergency director, and they're listed on there. 12, Emergency Management Advisory Board, the mayor appoints the chiefs of the 5 fire companies and their designees, the chief of the rescue squad dive team or the chief's designee, the fire official Frank Primavera, the chief of police Stacy Tapner, the emergency management director, communications coordinator Michael Brandenburg, township committee liaison to public safety, Amy or Roger, depending on how it, whether we're either available at that. So we'll work together on that. And up to 3 residents of the township: Henry Dorsey, John Percy, and John Liberty. The terms have expired, but they're being renewed tonight. So, okay. 13, appointment of the township representatives to the Lake Lenape Dam Advisory Board, 1-year term each.
I'd make a motion that we reappoint all listed. That's Carl Patali, Roger Silva, and Brett Knoll.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And that would also include our unofficial member, Mr. Sandman.
What?
He's deeply involved, but he can't
What
be
a
on the
guiding light. Hamilton Township Municipal Utilities Authority, a regular member, 5-year term, 2001-15 to 2001-2020.
Make a motion to reappoint Richard DeFeo.
I'll second
Second.
that.
We have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
15, the Property Maintenance Appeal Board.
Nope, alternate to
Reg-
MUA.
Pardon?
On the MUA, we have the alternate.
Oh,
to-
the alternate, thank you.
Yes.
The alternate 2, vacancy, unexpired term.
I'd like to
All
make
right.
a motion for Jenny Ayers.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Mrs. Anderson? Thanks, Amy.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes?
Mr. Gishard,
No, I have a nominee which I didn't get a chance to make, so no until we find out what happens here.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
I pass.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
3-2. Carried.
So, do you want to come back?
Next is the,
She,
Go ahead.
She passed, so she has a chance to vote again.
Yeah.
Did you want to vote again?
Yes.
Yes, so, okay. Property Maintenance Appeal Board, regular member.
Make a motion for Al Womelsdorf to serve as the regular member.
I'll second that.
A motion is second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva,
Yes.
all yes and carried.
And be the alternate to the appeal board.
Make a motion for Melissa Davenport.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, item 16 is the mayor's announcement of the 2015 department chairpersons and deputy chairpersons. Administration and Finance will be myself and Amy. Public Works will be Judy and Rodney. Public Safety will be Amy and myself. Planning and Zoning will be John Kurtz and Judy. And Special Events will be Rodney and John. 17 is designation of holidays for full-time salary employees.
I make a motion for those listed.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Does anybody else want to aye with me?
Aye. I'm still trying to get down the appointments.
Just the
here.
holidays.
There have been some changes in these committees, is that not correct?
Yes.
No, well, I mean, not only personnel, but in the structure of the committees.
Yep. We're going back to the way we used to do it, so that it's more understandable and it's less confusing to people, and there's a clear path of understanding.
We're wiping out liaison, is that?
Okay. Designation of depositories for the township funds for the years 2015.
Move those listed.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19, designation of official newspapers for municipal legal advertising for the year 2015.
Move those listed.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 20, establish regular township committee meeting dates and times.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 21, certification for memberships for the year 2015.
Move, can we take them all together?
Yep.
Simon? Okay, I move all those listed.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Mrs. Anderson, let's get a vote on that since it involves 4 of them.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva,
Yes,
all yes and carried.
we made it.
All right, we made it.
Okay, comments by chairperson and committee members. John, since you're the newest, we'll take you again first while you're still...
Well, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight for my installation. I appreciate that. And it's an honor to sit up here. I hope to work very well with the other committee members that sit here. I look forward to it. And I'm eager to get started on the work to move our township forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Judy?
I thought I would get a nice little saying together, but I didn't. And it's a privilege to really serve. I think people who discard politics as something that they don't want to get involved in and that it's dirty have to really be educated. And I don't know how to educate people to really feel the need to get involved and get involved with some knowledge. But that would be one of my quests to do, is to, find some scholarly course that would be offered to our citizenry to make them realize how important it is to get involved and to really put your foot forward and take the time, because we are the community and we want to do what's right for the community.
Thank you, Judy. That's very appropriate. Thank you. Thank you. Rodney?
I would certainly like to second what Judy said. Finding people to apply and work on many of these committees, finding people even to run. It's sometimes very difficult. There's a reluctance on the part of people to get involved. And we see this across the board. I'm involved in many organizations and you see it everywhere. It's really a shame. If this country is to survive, and particularly if the majority of the people are to be represented, they must be active. So I'm looking forward for a new beginning. I welcome John on board.
Thank you.
I think we have a lot of challenges which we'll need to face for 2015. I think all of you are aware of the budget situation and what's happened in Atlantic City, what's happening in the county. It's really going to make it challenging. And of course, what's happening to our citizens, so many of whom have lost their job or whose homes are in forfeiture. It's really a sad state of affairs. On the other hand, the economy's picking up, so maybe things will get better. Well, all I can say is I'll try my best, along with the other committee members, to do the best we can for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
All right, well, John, I want to wish you congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Welcome to the dais, and congrats to Mr. Mayor. I find it unbelievable that sitting here going into year 8 of term number 3, and it's been very exciting to work with you, Rodney, and Judy as well, so looking forward.
Haven't gotten any gray hair?
I have gotten gray hair. They just get dyed every couple of weeks. For me, I think I took a look back at what we've been through as a committee in the now 8 years that we've been here. At least my work husband and I, Roger, and certainly the rest of us that are up here. And to me, 2015 represents a clean slate, a blank page, a time for us all to start anew. We have a new mix on committee. We have new challenges, but we also have new opportunities. We've made it through some very difficult years. And when I say we, I mean we Township Committee, we our employees, we our taxpayers and residents. Years where we had to be kind of in a survival mode, but our fortitude, and that's the collective fortitude, has helped us to maintain a level of fiscal sanity that I don't think we would see anywhere else, not only in the county, but throughout the state. Now, with our clean slate, we have the chance to write a new future. We no longer have to focus on the ability to survive, but on our will to thrive. I look forward to a year of bringing in business with John's experience, putting people to work, challenging status quo in the name of doing things better, and maintaining a budget our citizens can afford. And with that, I wish everybody a happy 2015.
Thank you, Amy. John, congratulations and welcome to Township Committee and your new responsibilities.
Thank you, Roger.
Personally, I'm glad you're here because it represents a new beginning for this committee and the township. We had been through a difficult 3 years, but with the support of the majority of committee, we've made it through. And I just wrote down a few things I want to read to you, some of the accomplishments, and I won't list them all because there's in excess of 24. First one, we constructed and completed an all-accessible playground at Underhill Park. We completed the drainage project at Leapy Park. We completed the construction of a new parking lot at Town Hall, as most of you see across the street. There have been renovations to the Public Works building. We did a township-wide reassessment. We completed construction of the new first-floor dispatch center, and it's really state-of-the-art. Those are just some of the things. There's probably another 16 I could read and I have on a list, but hopefully, as you understand, the challenges that we face today are more difficult than we did when we first got on committee, and as difficult as they were, as a group of people who bonded together, we overcame them. Hopefully all of you are aware by now that the most difficult challenge facing our community is sustainability, and that's financial sustainability, especially in light of, and I heard Rodney say that he believes the economy is getting better, and To some degree, for some, that's a true statement. For others, it isn't. With what's going on in Atlantic City with the casino issue, with the closing of the casinos, the job losses, and the record number of foreclosures throughout our county, I mean, it's horrendous. All the municipalities in this county are going to be struggling with their budget this year. My goals haven't changed. They've been the same since I came to this committee. I started off with my primary goals of being a budget and the basins. And the reason I always stick to the budget is because the budget tells you what you can't do and what you can do. And the basins are very important because if they're not maintained, they create a public safety hazard, as we've seen over the past with some of the basins on the Black Horse Pike. Thanks with the help of our engineer and with the help of committee, understanding that the basin issue and the solicitor, the basin issue is so serious that if we don't stay on top of it, with the number of subdivisions we have in this community, it could overcome us. Well, this year is going to present many challenges. I still believe that committee is committed to public safety, paying down debt, and stopping spending. And I look forward to working with them this year as we have over the past few years. I think regardless of, as Judy said, and even Rodney supported that statement, regardless of who you are and what party you represent, when you're sworn in, you're supposed to sit up here and do the work of the people. It has nothing to do with political parties. It has to do with the work of the people. And if we're going to make it through this year, which I believe we will, because I think committee has made a lot of good decisions over the years, we'll come out of this thing at least with not buried in debt. And I think as we start relating the numbers to you, as you see us through the budget hearings and we talk about it, you'll understand how significant the decisions that have been made over the years and the impact it'll have on the community. They were well thought out and they were very timely. So I look forward to working with everyone, and I wish everyone a Happy New Year. With that, we'll take a 5 to 7 minute recess so that those that want to congratulate Don will have a minute, and then we'll reconvene to the regular meeting after that. So we'll take a recess.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any early public comment? No one has signed up. Great. Confirmation of executive session, none yet, but we will go into executive session. Item number 4 is discussions. Formal actions may be taken. Resolution urging the legislature to work with all elected representatives and officials of Atlantic County in enactment of casino gambling properties tax relief legislation. Everyone in favor of it?
Mike, you want to talk about it? Or?
The resolution that's in your packet is one that was adopted by the county.
Right.
And put it on the agenda for committee's consideration of supporting it.
Well, we kind of, and we felt it was appropriate in light of the fact that some of the language that's been in the newspaper hasn't been real pleasant to hear about the amount of tax relief that the city may get in the casinos, and the municipalities, the other municipalities in the county would bear that burden, and we had felt a strong resolution in support of doing this appropriately, okay, would be the thing to do at this time.
Okay.
So what's your pleasure?
Make a motion in support of the
Second.
resolution.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, introduction of ordinances. Public hearing to be held Tuesday, January the 20th, 2015, amending maximum salaries. Michael?
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance does a number of things. There's 2 exhibits. One is Exhibit A, and one is the organizational chart. The first part of here creates new positions puts new positions in the
Salary ordinance?
salary ordinance that have already been approved by the committee.
Okay.
There's no new positions. It deletes one of the on-call responders because it was, we put 3 in, there only should be 2 for non-union.
One of these two.
Yeah.
It separates the duties of the deputy police chief and the OAM coordinator. Those would be 2 separate positions. It deletes a salary from the ordinance for deputy police chief. You'll set that by resolution when you appoint a deputy police chief. There are a number of salaries on page 2 that it increases the max. It doesn't increase the salary. It just increases the maximum you could go with the salary to accommodate the ordinance for pay increases. It's to the division fire chief, deputy chief financial officer, communications record supervisor, director of MIS. Then there's the SAB secretary, historic preservation board secretary, the on-call responders, and the fire official maximum. Those are all being done just so that when you do the raises, that there's room for them to fit in there.
Okay, so it's just memorializing pretty much
Yes.
everything that we've already
Already done.
approved individually.
Yes. And the chart of organization, deleting the part-time public defender, he's going to be paid as a vendor, and one of the on-call responders. So
Okay, so you got the whole chart here, right?
but there's 2 attachments. The one's the organizational chart,
Okay.
and one is Exhibit A, which shows you the maximum salaries.
And what you highlighted on the salary maximum is the new?
The highlighted ones are the ones that were changed, yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to introduce 1782-2015.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any other questions or comments? Have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Scatto,
Yes?
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. The 1783, 2015, amending Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for annual salary increases for certain employees. Michael?
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance, if approved, would provide pay raises to the non-union employees consistent with the ones that were just approved for the police sergeants and the ones that have been negotiated.
The
with
ones that
Teamsters.
we approved at the last meeting, right?
yes.
So this is right in line with it, is
It's
what you're
identical.
saying?
Identical, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, move to introduce.
Second.
Motion is second. Other questions or comments? Let's have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Scatto,
Yes, and do want to note that the discussions on all that is budgeted.
Thank you, Amy.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Item 6, accept Professional Property Appraisers, Inc., proposal for residential inspection and measurement services for 2015, and authorize the mayor, township clerk, and assessor to execute the agreement on behalf of the township. Class 2 properties, new construction, $30 per parcel. Commercial, new construction, $100 parcel. Condominiums, $18 per parcel. Additions to existing parcels, $15 per parcel. No increase over the 2014 proposal. So in a sense, this is the same proposal we have?
It's the same as 2014. There's no increase. They haven't
No
increased in like
increase.
5 years. They've been doing it for about 20 years for us.
Okay,
I'd like to move to accept.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Do I need a roll call on that, Bob? Yeah, roll call, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Scatto,
yes?
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
7, award of contracts and change orders. Authorize the award bid of 2014-17. Uniform purchases, Part A to Specialty Graphics, Cherry Hill, totaling $1,631, and Part B to This and That Uniforms, Pleasantville, totaling $1,784.98 as per unit price bid.
And this is the lowest bidder, correct?
Those are the 2 lowest bidders. Prices that are on your agenda, that's our unit prices. So obviously, this is for police uniforms and for public works uniforms.
Right, okay. Make a motion?
Motion.
I have a question.
Sure.
I did have a question as far as the quality of the material of each one of these items. Is there a certain quality that they have to meet or on the RFQ or?
I would defer to, it was specified?
In the specifications, and these 2 bidders don't have specials.
Yeah, did you answer what I was saying?
Yeah, she said that it was in the
The,
In the
RFQ.
specifications, and neither one of them took any exceptions, so they're going to meet the specs.
oh, okay, okay, got it.
Okay with that, Jude?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I still have a
Did
motion on the
anybody
table.
second it?
I'll
We have a-
second it.
We have a motion and a second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mayor Silva? All yes and carried.
The approved change order number 3 final for Town Hall Auxiliary Parking Lot contract. Net decrease of $6,498.68 as recommended by Robert Smith, Township Engineer, on December 23rd, 2014.
I'll gladly move any net decreases.
I'll second that gladly.
And they're all glad questions or comments, right? So, Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, approve the change order number 1 final for Underhill Park Accessible Walkway and Parking Area Contract. Net decrease is $738.88 as recommended by our Township Engineer, Robert Smith.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any
Mayor?
questions or comments?
It's actually $738 even.
Even, no 88 cents?
No, sir.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
It was-
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes, thank you.
All yes and carried.
Consent agenda.
Move item 8A through
T.
T. Anybody want to second them?
I'll second that.
The motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Personnel. A, appoint Cynthia Lindsay as qualified purchasing agent to QPA for the year 2015.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Bob, do I need roll call? Yes. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, appoint Rita Martino, the Public Agency Compliance Officer to PACO for the year 2015 at $5,000 per year.
So
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
On this one, pay attention to this one, Joan. Appoint Joan I. Anderson, Township Clerk, as Municipal Improvement Searcher for the year 2015.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto?
It's touchy, but yes.
I could ask the solicitor, do you need a roll call since there's no money involved?
I vote yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes.
D, appoint Renee DeSalvo, Tax Collector, as Municipal Tax Searcher for the year 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All
Thank you.
yes and carried.
E, reappoint part-time Class 2 Special Law Enforcement Officers as defined in the Township Code for part-time hourly employees for the year 2015 hours, an hourly rate set by ordinance.
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, we can move all three of them, right? Robert McKay, Arthur Tran, and Christopher Bell.
Christopher Bell.
Motion is second. Mrs. Anderson?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Personnel continued. F, reappoint part-time substitute communication officers, dispatchers, as defined in the Township Code for part-time hourly employees for the year 2015 and an hourly rate set by ordinance. 1, Lawrence Birch III. 2, Gary Skylar. C. Nicole Scafani, and D. Calmer Rodney.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
G, reappoint part-time police records clerks as defined in the Township Code for part-time employees for the year 2015 at an hourly rate set by ordinance. Samantha Erasmuth, Nicole Adams, and Tina Chiari.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz? Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
H, accept the resignation of Deborah Kraus as Zoning Board Adjustment Alternate 2. Term expires December the 31st, 2015.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Just want to thank Debbie for her
Yes.
service. She's always very involved, and I just understand there's a lot going on. So
Yes, I
hopefully
do.
she'll be back at some point.
Yes, and I know Mike had sent a letter to her thanking her for her service, correct,
Great.
Michael? Thank you. I appreciate your anticipating that. D, approvals. March 17, 2014, regular minute meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, you
John, you should
abstain.
abstain.
Abstain, yes, that's right.
B, December 15, 2014, regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, you abstained, right. C, December 15, 2014, to executive session minutes.
Mr.
moved.
Kurtz?
I was at the December 15th meeting.
Yeah, but you still,
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I have a motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah, motion.
I second.
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. D, bills and payrolls. Bill list totaling $4,693,099.28.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Well, no. Roll call, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Reports. Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add to my written report.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor. Mr. Engineer.
Just a quick comment. I just want to thank Township Committee for the ability to serve again next year, and I want to echo Bob's comments that he made earlier in the meeting, that it is a privilege as a resident to be able to serve the community you live in, and I look forward to working with everyone next year.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate those
Thank you.
comments. Thank you very much. Committee members, do any committee members have anything else to say?
Negative.
I might.
Go ahead, Judy.
On Sunday, I took my granddaughter and daughter and her friend and her little girlfriend to Philadelphia for the Disney on Ice.
Everybody
And
was going to that.
It
yeah.
was a tremendous success. The fellow that was saying, this is the last one, thank God, but he was saying that they had 3 shows daily, and every one of them was filled to capacity for 2 weeks. And wouldn't we like to have that in Atlantic City again?
Do you remember when we had the Ice Capades here?
Ice Capades, it was fantastic. You know, I passed the word on to Whalen, but I'm going to pass it on again, you know.
No, I appreciate it. And tell them to bring the mumbers, too.
Yeah. to
I mean,
bring
they could,
numbers.
they've been there before, right? So they,
Yeah, have more local, you know, and see if you can get the Disney contract
thank you.
next year.
Rodney?
Yeah, I just want to mention that I suppose that Mr. Kurt's incident over on the intersection of Main Street and 50, myself and Judy were talking to our freeholder representative, Colin Bell, and I think we all agreed he was going to send a letter to the state to look into what can possibly be done to make that intersection a little safer. So hopefully something will come out of that.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you, Rodney. I was going to look into that, too.
Okay, good. The more horsepower, the better. I just can't help but mention, we talk about what's happening in Atlantic County, and I've spent a lot of time up in New York City recently, and it's just amazing the the different worlds we have. Up there, for example, they just sold a condominium in Manhattan for $59 million. They're building, last year I think there were 300 luxury condominiums being built. This year there's something like 800. The average per square foot cost, the luxury ones, is about $5,000 a square foot. The so-called moderate luxuries are $1,700 to $2,300 per square foot. We live in different worlds. It's just something that's very interesting.
And you look at the police department, what do they have, 35,000 policemen in there?
35,000, yep.
The chief's like, give me that budget.
Right, chief?
You could handle it.
All right, you
That's
need a
more
limo to come
residents.
to work every day, right?
That's more residents than we have.
And just for those who might be interested, the Stockton Center on Successful Aging has got a very robust program for the next year, and I certainly would suggest to anyone who might be inclined to participate. You don't have to be old. I mean, there are a lot of very good programs there. It's on the website. If you have any difficulty, I'll be happy to point you in the right direction, but it's worth taking a look at it, and it's relatively local.
Do you have to ride a bike, Rodney?
Well, that helps.
In New York it does, right? You get around faster than you can,
You
right?
sure do.
Huh?
Tell you what, when you're in New York, you better learn how to walk.
Fast, too. All right. Is that it? Anyone else on committee?
No, I just really quick would like to thank everyone again for their support, especially with my injury. I've had a lot of well wishes from everybody. It means a lot to me. And I look forward to working this year with everybody on this dais as a team to make things go forward with the township. Thank you.
Thank you, John. With that, anyone in this will open it up to the public? Anyone in the public wish to comment on anything?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson, executive session.
Are we coming back in public session or not?
We won't be coming back in?
No.
No?
We won't have anything to vote on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss reimbursability of benefits for employee in the municipal court, which is exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. We have further resolved that the governing body will not reconvene in public session because no action is expected to result from the discussions at this time.
I'll move what she said.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions to what she said?
I dare not.
Okay, let's adjourn into executive session. Oh, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you make them arrogant.